Hello everyone. Today we'll be talking about Shivanubhav, Bhagwan Shiva's divine interventions in Mahabharata. Dive into the divine narrative of Mahabharata and discover how it can transform your psyche. Witness the leela of Sri Parameshwara and see how karma shapes the lives of the principal characters. In this enlightening exploration of Mahabharata, we delve into the transformative power of this epic. We discuss the origin of Pandav, Draupadi, Ashvattama, and Kaurav, and reveal how Śrī Bhagavān Shiva, the karma phala influences their life journey throughout his divine intervention. We also examine the profound impact of Mahabharata on its reader's psyche. We shall conclude this session with brief mention of several other instances within Mahabharata that glorify Sri Parameshwara. Join us on this spiritual journey and experience the transformative power of Mahabharata. So let us invite today's panel. Let's start with Pandit Mahesh Shastriji. Hello, Mahesh.
Pranam, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. So Pandit Mahesh Shastriji, who is a Panchang Siddhanti of mypanchang.com, and he prepares Panchang calendars of 90% temples in the United States. Now, let's also invite Eashwar Thiagrajan. Hello, Eashwarji.
Namaste. Namaste.
Eashwarji is a student of Vedanta, Itihasa, and Puran for several years. He has had the blessing of learning Vedanta primarily from Sri Ramakrishna Mutt in Seattle. He has a deep interest in Advaita. He has been a student of Mahabharata for more than 25 years. He has also had the good fortune of studying Mahabharata at Hindu University of America under Dr. Vishwa Adluri.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks.
So Eashwarji is today's special guest. Let's spin off this conversation, Eashwarji. We are talking about Shivanubhav here, which means that we are going to experience Shiva in the story of Mahabharata, which seems a little different because when I was growing up and I listened to and I later on read all the Mahabharata stories, Vishnu has always been in the forefront of that story where he is the Sri Krishna is the avatar of Vishnu and he is the one playing the lead role throughout that story. So when we talk about Shivanubhav, how does Shiva intervene in Mahabharata? How does that look like?
Yeah. You can hear me fine?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you. So namaskar, Shruti ji, and namaskar, Mahesh ji, and thank you for inviting me to share this, right? One of the delights of having known Mahesh ji for several years is, it's whenever we meet him, it's only satsang, right? So this question that you're asking is kind of the question that sparks off a series of discussions which are a satsang for us, right? So you are right, actually. Even when I grew up, everybody has read Amar Chitra Katha comics, or they have read Rajaji's abridged edition of Mahabharata and Ramayana. Like that's a very common thing. Then Bharata Vidya Bhavan has also published a few books which we have read, right? Then if you come into B.R. Chopra Mahabharata, which has had a huge influence on a vast viewing majority of our country, you will find that Sri Krishna is in the forefront of the Mahabharata, right? So all of this is correct. But the part that you will discover when you take a dip in the ocean, which is really Mahabharata of 100,000 shlokas, is that Parameshwara is like the architect of every single event, like the birth of the principal characters, who marries whom, why are they born, what are the causes. And another remarkable thing about Parameshwara is that unlike Asuras who do not worship Sri Hari, the Devas, Asuras, Manavas, Danavas, Yakshas, Gandharvas, everybody, Kinkaras, Purushas, everybody is a devotee of Parameshwara. Right. So it's almost like Bhagavan has decided that how to hold us by our hand and take us to the next level in our spiritual journey, right? So he is the karma phala dhaata. So you are right. So thank you for bringing this thing. So Shiva Leela Amritam is the Shivanubhavam in Mahabharata, the leela that Sri Parameshwara plays. So today we are actually only, as I said, we are taking an initiation, a diksha into the topic because the topic is very vast, right? As Swami Vivekananda once said, the subject is vast, but the time is short, which is true for even today's discussion today, right? So we will go through the slide deck, which I hope is an alambana, something to hold on to even as we speak, and people can read and write. And I intend to speak mostly in English. Occasionally, I may switch language, like maybe Hindi or Sanskrit, but that's about it, right? So shall we get started?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thanks. So this is the broad agenda for today. is that it has about 3 sections in today's discussion. The first section is largely an orientation. It's like we are trying to understand how to view Mahabharata and how before, so that we can have the right kind of a bearings, psychological bearings, philosophical bearings, so that we can jump into the topic proper, which is Lord Shiva's leela in Mahabharata, right? So if I make it purely philosophical, then what's the fun in that, right? So there has to be a few stories. So we look at a few stories in the beginning of Mahabharata that comes in Adi Parva, and we will quickly conclude with a very high level overview. I'm calling it a 10,000 foot overview because at a very high level distance, I'm going to mention all the different stories that are sprinkled across Mahabharata, which span into several thousands of shlokas, which are exclusively dedicated to glorify Parameshwara, which is the kind of agenda for today. It's just to whet everyone's appetite and so that they can go off and do their own studies, right? That's the idea. So we'll start with the orientation part. So the way Mahabharata starts is really amazing. Normally, when you start giving an advice to somebody, you'll always have a resistance, right? Because the ahankara of the person listening is going to say something back to you as a vikalpa, as we call it, right, in Sanskrit. So Bhagavan Vyasa, what he does is he has crafted this amazing storytelling device as the vehicle on which he mounts the wisdom of the Vedas. And the way he does is he has framing narratives after framing narratives after framing narratives. If you randomly close your eyes and touch some story in Mahabharata, you will end up being in somebody's flashback. The chances are pretty high, right? So to start with, the highest outer setting, which starts with a shloka in Mahabharata. This is the first shloka. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim chaiva tato jayamudiraye. The interesting thing is the word Vyasa is missing here. That is how everybody is used to this shloka. Because that shloka that everybody says, Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudiraye, that comes in Bhagavata. So in Bhagavata Sampradaya, that shloka has been added as Vyasa. But here that Vyasa Nama is not there because this is how Bhagavan Vyasa himself wrote the shloka for Mahabharata. Okay. So then immediately the story starts in the outermost setting. The entire Mahabharata is basically a discussion between Suta Pauranika, who's also called Ugrashrava, and the Shaunakadi Mahamunis, who are all doing a yajna in Naimisharanya. That is the outermost setting. Right. And then one setting further, you come to Janamejaya, who is the son of Parikshit, talking to Vaishampayana, who is the disciple of Sri Bhagavan Vyasa. Then in their discussion comes the actual Mahabharata story proper. Sometimes if you start counting how many framing narratives are there, at several points in Mahabharata, you will find that the framing narrative is like 7 layers deep or 6 layers deep. Like I'll give you an example. You have a question?
Yeah, I was going to say that by framing narrative, do you mean that it's a story within a story within a story, and that's the level of narratives that we're talking about? Okay.
Exactly. Like for example, there's a story of Narada advising a king, which is actually told by Bhagavan Vyasa to Yudhishthira, which is told by Sanjaya to Dhritarashtra, which is again told by Vaishampayana to Janamejaya, that is actually told by Shauti to Shaunakadi Mahamunis. So you can see all these levels that are there. So you're right. Framing narrative basically means the story within a story. Right? Yeah. So
and this happens even in Ramayana also. There are different narratives.
Correct. Even in the Balakanda, for example, when Brahma Rishi is telling the stories to Sri Ramachandra, there also we can see these framing narratives come up. Similarly, whenever any Akhyana basically means a narrative is brought up, you will find that the narrative is it doesn't come out of the blue. It's always like a cog in a chain. It is connected to another narrative and another narrative, right? That's how the continuity narrative is being maintained in the stories, right? Yeah. So the Shaunakadi Rishis, they see that Suta Pauranika has come, Sauti, and they all ask him some slokas. So I just put some initial slokas from Adi Parva. It starts by saying, Dvaipayane yat proktam puranam paramaharshinaha surair brahmarshibhi chaiva srutya yat abhipujitam. He says, hey, Bhagavan Vyasa, who is Krishna Dvaipayana, who is highly revered, abhipujitam, I have heard that is praised by whom? By Brahma Rishi, Devas and everybody. I have heard that there's a Purana that Krishna Dvaipayana has revealed. So can you please tell us that? And what kind of a Purana or Itihasa? It is Tasya Akyana Varishtasya. It is the Varishtaha, best among, eminent among Akyanas, all the narratives that are out there. And what does it contain? Sukshmartha Nyaya Yuktasya Vedarthair Bhushitasya cha. It is adorned. As in just you put garland, right? It is adorned with the deep, pregnant meanings, logical subtleties of that have been revealed in the Vedas.
Right.
So this Mahabharata or Itihasa is basically in content and spirit, it is Vedas, but it is cast against the backdrop of an excellent narrative or an excellent historical narrative, as you can take it, right?
Right.
And what is how are they addressing this Akhyana Varishta? They call Bharatasya Itihasam Punyam. It is Itihasa. So this word Itihasa, sometimes people mischievously translate this as mythology, right? Sometimes people think they are being accurate by calling it history. But the word Itihasa is, to put it simply, is neither of the two, but in some sense, it has the elements of the two. So the historical narratives of the past, when they are revealed by Bhagavan Vyasa to us, he just doesn't tell you a story for story's sake. He wants to create a pedagogy, a teaching device, a philosophical instrument, so that when we go through the life experience of all the Mahatmas before us, it becomes a transformative life experience for us. So this is the difference between reading, let's say, Mahabharata and Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Harry Potter, no doubt, is an excellent page turner, right? Very fictional, very fun. But Mahabharata can also be fun and can be told in fun ways also. But the difference is the person who opens the Mahabharata has transformed by the time he closes the book on the Mahabharata, which means the person who opened the book is not quite the person who closed the book. The impact is very profound. And it is Nana Shastropa Brahmitam. It is filled with a variety of Shastras that is of extreme useful to us, right? Then he says, Janamejayasa yam yagnyo Vaishampayana uktavan. In Janamejaya's yajna, which happened, we have heard that Vaishampayana was telling this to Janamejaya. And on whose order? Dvaipayana Agnyaya. Through the order of Dvaipayana, which is Krishna Dvaipayana, Bhagavan Vyasa told Vaishampayana to tell the story to Janamejaya. Who is Janamejaya? Parikshit's son. Who is Parikshit? Abhimanyu's son. Who is Abhimanyu? Arjuna's son. So basically, the great-grandson of Arjuna is basically asking, tell me the story of our ancestors. And then Vaishampayana is telling the story as he had learnt it from Bhagavan Vyasa. Right? Then
And
what is
Arjuna is Pandu's son, who is Pandu's father, Ultimately, it goes down up to the Krishna Dvaipayana.
Correct. That is true. They are all santanas of Bhagavan Vyasa in that sense. Vedaihi Chaturbihi Sammitam Vyasasya Adbhuta Karmanaha Sammitam Srotum Vichyamu Dharmyam Papa Bhayapaham. See, this kutuhalam that people have, that excitement that they have to hear blissful, auspicious things is that kutuhalam that the rishis are revealing to Sauti. Right? Just like you were asking at the beginning of this conversation, I want to hear more about this, right? Srotum Vichyami Dharmyam. So that is exactly what they are saying. You said it in English, they are saying in Sanskritam actually. But the bhavam is about the same, right? So, and what kind of a nature of the story is Mahabharata? Papa Bhayapaham. It removes Papa and Bhayam. Bhayam comes, Dvitiyad by Bhayam Bhavati. Bhayam comes from the idea that you are finite and your existence is in some way or the other threatened by things that is other than you. That is the notion of Bhayam. Then what is Papam? Papam is that notion that makes you feel you are limited, constrained, and you also feel you are apurna. You are going away from the divine aspects of life. That is the Papa Bhavam. Punya Bhavam takes you closer to divinity. Papam takes you away from divinity. So both of these can be solved, or let's call them as diseases, can be solved with one medicine. And that medicine is what? Akhyana Varishtasya. The Brahma Vidya that is being imparted in the form of Mahabharata is the remedy for this problem. Okay, so this is the bhavam with which they are asking. And once they ask that, Shruti basically says, I shall repeat to you. This Purana Samsritaha Punyakataha. When I write things in English, sometimes it's very hard to read. Okay? Purana Samsritaha Punyakataha. This Punyakatha, which has been held in revered memory across generations, that story I will tell you. See, that's how this Mahabharata itself starts, right? Then immediately, okay, now he is going to tell the story. How does he start the story? So once he starts telling, the first thing he does is he stands a sloka. This sloka can be attributed to Parameshwara. This is Adyam Purusham Ishanam Puruhutam Purustutam Ritam Ekaksharam Brahma Vyakta Avyakta Sanatanam. And the meaning, I've tried to translate this, he says Adyam Purusham. I am bowing down to Adi Purusha, the original source of everything. Ishanam, the controller of all. Puruhutam Purustutam. How are they adoring this Brahman? Through yajnas they are adoring him. Through stuti they are adoring him. This Parameshwara, right? And his rhythm, he is the absolute truth, the lawmaker, the controller of everything. Eka Aksharam, Ekaksharam. He is the one infinite, inexhaustible Brahma, reality, Brihat Vastuhu. Vyakta, Avyakta Sanatanam. Vyakta means this Parameshwara, Parabrahman appears as Vyaktam, this visible universe, and as the Shuddha Chaitanya Sakshi Matra Chinmaya Adhishtana Bhuta Vastu, he is the Adhishtanam on which this world is appearing also. So he is Avyaktam, right? For example, when you are busily watching the movie is Vyaktam to you, but you forget that when you are staring at the movie, you are not just staring at the movie, but also the TV, which is the Adhishtanam for the movie to be projected upon, right? People often say, what do you see? And they say, I see the waves. But what are they looking at? They're looking at the ocean, right? But because of our enamored mind, which is enamored by the waves, we don't pay attention to the waterness of the wave, which is the ocean itself, right? So this is how Shruti is revealing Brahman to us. Similarly, Mahabharata is also revealing it in the same manner.
Right.
Okay. Then the next very shloka, I mean, the 20th shloka, 22nd shloka, you will see the same Paratattvam, the same highest reality is now being invoked again, but see the choice of words. Mangalyam Mangalam Vishnum, Varenyam Anagam Shuchim, Namaskritya Rishikesham Charachara Gurum Harim. And now what is happening? He who was first referred to as Ishana, the same Paratattvam is now being worshipped as Vishnu. See, the beauty of this, in some sense, Mahabharata has this tendency to beautifully extol somebody as Parameshwara. And there will be stories in which there will be Vishnu and there will be Shiva in the same story. But when the Stuti Bhavam comes, when the adoration comes, when the Upasana Bhavam comes, suddenly all these boundaries start to blur. And you can see there is the one truth that is appearing in various forms. Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vadanti, right? As Rik Vedam says. So that kind of a Bhavam you can see here. So I am adoring Mangalyam, Mangalam Vishnu, the auspicious, and auspicious is itself. Okay. Varenyam, we see this Varenyam, Bhargo Devasiddhimai, Varenyam is that which is of great adoration to us. Okay. Varinchadam in Telugu they will say. That is, you are constantly seeking it. The one that is worth your highest seeking is Varenyam. Okay. Shuchim, extremely taintless, because TV is never tainted by the movie playing on it. Right? Because absolutely unattached. Asango Vai Purusha is Shuddha Chaitanya Vastu. Shuchim. Namaskritya Hrishikesham. Charachara, he is the controller of all my Indriyas. Hrishikesham. Charachara Jagat Gurum. See, what kind of a Jagat Guru is he? For everything that is moving and unmoving. Right? See, this idea that Bhagavan is present in the moving and the unmoving, you see it everywhere. In Prahlada Upakyana also you see that. Right? He says, of course he is in the pillar. Right? Similarly, in Lalita Sahasranamam we will see Chit Shaktir Chetana Rupa, but Jada Shakti Jadatmika. She is the Jada Shakti in Jada Vastu also, in the insentient objects. Yet she is the one who shines forth in the sentient objects as I, Aham Spurti. Right? This is the Bhavam with which Brahman is worshipped. Here we can see Hari Hara Stuti and also Hari Hara Abedam in Mahabharata. Then this is the next aspect of understanding Mahabharata is Mahabharata in intent and content is nothing but Vedas. But taught against the backdrop of the historical narrative of our ancestors. So in our Sampradaya, we view Mahabharata as a Panchama Veda. So all the benefits that accrue from Veda Adhyanam also accrue from Mahabharata Shravanam, Mananam and all this. So the key to understand Vedam is not just to intellectually grasp it, but also internalize it. That Mahabharata offers to us.
Yeah.
See, in many ways, you can, Dr. Vishwa Adluriji in Hindu University of America, he often used to say like Mahabharata is like the first commentary on Vedas. Because in many ways, what better commentary can it be when it has story, screenplay, acting and everything, right? It's the perfect way to internalize something, right?
Yeah. And I do feel like if there are stories, they always hold your attention more than having to go through like lots and lots of text. So I think this is exactly what Veda Vyasa is doing here. I think there's an interesting question, Eashwar, if you want to answer that. Saket is asking that like there are two versions of Ramayana, which is Valmiki and Tulsidas. What are the versions of Mahabharata? And which one are you referring to right now as well?
See, the word version is an interesting word, right? Because Valmiki Ramayana is the Mula Pata. That is the Itihasa in our Sampradaya. But great rishis like Kamban in Tamil or Tulsidas ji, Goswami Tulsidas ji in Hindi, they have been able to re-visualize Mahabharata through Daivanugraham and they have represented it through the lens of their own spiritual trance or vision. So the Mahabharata that I am talking about primarily is the Vyasa Mahabharata of some 96,000 shlokas, which in Sampradaya we call as Laksha shlokas, right? Now the question is, what are the other versions of Mahabharata? Similarly, other people have also attempted it. In Tamil, for example, there is Villi Bharatam, there is in Tamil. In Telugu also there is a Mahabharata. And then there is also a Jaiminiya Mahabharata, that is also there. But again, I am sticking to Vyasa Mahabharatam, which is the Moola Pata. There are so many other versions of Mahabharata also, and it is there ingrained in our consciousness as Hindus and Indians, right? Bharatiyas.
So what we are saying here is the Valmiki Ramayana is the very original one. And then a lot of people have attempted to write Ramayana after that from their own visualizations and their own journey. And similarly for Mahabharata, Vyasa Mahabharata is the original one.
Correct.
And then a lot of people have attempted to, again, write Mahabharata from their own point of view after that.
The only thing I'll be careful about the word point of view is because it's not a creative writing attempt. They have been impelled by divinity to reveal some stuff.
Right.
And also in our Sampradaya, we are more truth-centric than history-centric. Like what I mean by that is there are some utterances in Puranas that you see, it'll be like mind-boggling. One Purana actually, in fact in Yoga Vashishta Ramayana, there is an utterance saying that Rama Avatara has taken place many times. So every time there has been a Ramayana. In fact, in Adhyatma Ramayana, there's a particular shloka where you will see that when Sitama is being told that by Sri Ramachandra that I am going to forest, you have to stay back, take care of my parents and all that. Then Sitama says, in which Ramayana did Rama leave Sita behind? Which almost means that the author of Adhyatma Ramayana is aware of other Ramayanas and he is not hesitant to project this as a historical story. He's more interested in giving us the divine experience. So that's the thing. So that is one thing. Then now, if I go to the two shlokas here, it actually is a pramana within Mahabharata, which is Vedan Adhyapayam Asya Mahabharata Panchamam. Then another thing that Mahabharata is very, very careful about is if we are trying to understand Vedas, it is better to understand it through the lens of Mahabharata. Itihasa Puranabhyam Vedam Samupa Brahmayet. In fact, that is what says. In fact, the shloka, other part of the shloka I did not put. It even says that if person approaches the studying of Vedas and its meaning without understanding Mahabharata, the Vedas are afraid of him. Because he may misinterpret the Vedas. That is the idea. So we'll go there. So evidently, Bhagavan Vyasa is asking us to harmonize our study of Mahabharata with our interpretation of Vedas and also vice versa. Okay. So that is important. Now we'll go to the this very AI generated figure.
Eashwarji, before we go to this, there's also another interesting question from the audience. Vidishri is asking, how is Mahabharata revealing the Vedas knowledge? Is it through interaction of characters or through different events that are happening? So how is it being communicated?
It is both actually. It is both because what is one without the other, right? For example, if you take the story of Arjuna going to Indrakila Parvatam to attain Pashupata Astram, right? In that whole story, there is a narrative that is propelled him there. Then there is this interesting dialogue between Devendra and Arjuna, followed by Bhagavan Parameshwara appearing as a Kirata, as a hunter, and then the conversation. So all these conversations are very pertinent to the story. Similarly, Shri Krishna comes as a Shanti Dut. The multitude of conversations that take place, some of which we have seen in B.R. Chopra's Mahabharata already, you can see that they give a layered commentary on how people perceive dharma according to their capabilities. Like Yudhishthira's view of dharma is very different than Duryodhana's view of dharma. Obviously, it's day and night.
Correct.
But between Yudhishthira and Arjuna also, you can see subtleties. And how this Arjuna is guided by Shri Krishna, that also we see through the course of the Mahabharata. So yes, conversations and also the settings under which these conversations unfold, both of them are important.
Okay.
Yeah. And there are larger motives. Like for example, Rajasuya Yajna, if you study Rajasuya Yajna from Vedam itself, from Aitreya Brahmanam itself, you will find the Rajasuya Yajna as described in the Vedas have a certain structure, events, sequences and everything. Many of these things can be seen in Mahabharata as story points itself that are happening. Okay, I don't want to get into that because it's a very deep topic. So my point is there are a lot of subtleties that are embedded as a story in Mahabharata, which if you understand and go back and read the Aitreya Brahmana from Rig Veda, you will actually be able to understand the significance of what the Veda is saying about those rituals or kratus. So yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So now if I come to this figure, so the purpose of this figure is to take home the point that there is a method and purpose of Mahabharata. So just like a parrot is looking at its reflection, right? So the reason I put a parrot is I have heard this, that the way parrots are trained to speak in India is typically a person is trying to talk to the parrot and trying to teach it, let's say Rama, Rama, Rama. But if the parrot is hesitant, they will typically try to use a parrot that already knows how to speak and try to train the parrot that can know how to speak. But if that such a parrot is not available, then they'll put a mirror in front of the parrot, and the human voice behind the mirror will mimic the sound that they want the parrot to enunciate, like Rama, Rama, Rama. Right? So using that metaphor, I am saying that the parrot that is looking at the mirror is the student of Mahabharata. The reflection in the mirror, right? The mirror itself is Mahabharata. Okay? And who is the voice behind? It is the voice of Bhagavan Sri Vyasa. And what is the intent and content of the voice? It is the Vaidika Vani. He is basically teaching us Vedas by humming behind the Mahabharata. And when we are looking at Mahabharata thinking, oh, it is a story, it's a history, it's a narrative, but then the onrush of Jnana Pravaham that comes through that, we get inundated with this, and that becomes has an alchemic effect on us. A rasayanam takes place within us through the process of studying Mahabharata. So this is the method and structure of Mahabharata. Because left to our own devices, our lives may or may not be that interesting. But you give our life to Bhagavan Vyasa and say, can you please write me my own story? If Bhagavan Vyasa touches his pen and writes something, our own story, then our own story will become uplifting for us. Right? If it is just somebody's story, what is uplifting about it? Nothing there. But when the Rishi is telling that story, that is when it becomes uplifting. So that we have to keep in mind. We have to have the eternal gratitude. Rishi Runam, we have to Bhagavan Sri Vyasa. Right? So another thing about this structure is that Vedanta Shravanam can, our understanding the subtleties of Vedanta or Upanishads or the Brahma Vidya can take place through Katha Shravanam. This has been well established in our tradition. So we often use the word Katha Kalakshepam. Katha Kalakshepam sometimes is meant to say that by listening to the story, I am killing the time. That is not the idea. You can truly kill the time. The time is only killing us right now. Right? We can truly kill the time only when the Katha is through the mouth of Bhagavan Vyasa. Because we go beyond time. We forget the notion of time. We get immersed in the divinity of the storyline that is being given to us. And what is the essence of the story? It is Vedanta or the Bhakti that is being given to us. Right? So that is very important. Next is through Katha Sravanam or to Vedanta Sravanam, what do you get? You get Shraddha. Okay, Shraddha. Now, what do I mean by Shraddha? I'm using it in the way Sri Adi Shankara Bhagavat Pada used it in Viveka Chudamani. Shastrasya Guru Vakyasya Satya Buddhi Avadaranam. That which has been revealed in the Upanishads or Vedas or Shastras, which has been taught to me with all its subtleties by my Guru or Guru Sampradaya, which I can tally in my own experience as a non-contradictable truth.
Okay.
Something that is never, Satya Buddhi Avadharana means in our Buddhi, we know that this is true. See, normally when we say something is true, it has to be true always. This is the criterion that they use in Vedanta. See, so that is why in English we use the word fact. Right? A statement like President Biden is our president today is a fact.
Yeah.
But this fact has a time limit. If there is a truth that my essential nature is pure awareness or consciousness, that can never be wrong under any circumstance. So that is truth. Whereas the former one I said is fact.
That
so
comes
what is
from Viveka Chudamani, right? That comes from the Viveka Chudamani.
Viveka Chudamani. Correct. And then this Shraddha comes through Shravanam, that clarity, right? And this Shraddha leads to Shraddhavan Labate Jnanam, right? Like Bhagavan says in Bhagavad Gita. So that leads to Jnanam. That is the essential method of Mahabharata. Vedanta Shravanam through the medium of Katha Shravanam, which culminates in Shraddha. Shraddha culminates in Jnana. This is the method of Bhagavan Vyasa.
Okay.
Then this one shloka I want to say is that it says, see the confidence of the Mahabharata. It says, Dharma, Dharmecha, Artecha, Kamecha, Mokshecha, Bharatarishabha, Yat ihasti, Tat Anyatra, Yan Nehasti Natva Kavich. It says that what is being said here, you may maybe find it in other places. But what is not said here, you can never find it outside. So it shows the all-encompassing nature of Mahabharata. So what does it mean? It means Mahabharata derives this confidence from the truth that it is merely reflecting what is being told in Vedas. Since Vedas is sarvasvam for us in our sampradaya, Mahabharata as a Panchama Veda is also sarvasvam for us.
Okay.
So this is the method of approaching Mahabharata.
Right.
So since I told about Vaidika Vani, Vaidika Margam, intent, content, we'll briefly look at what I mean by Vaidika Margam for the purposes of our audience today, with the intention that this is hopefully helpful to them when they look at this is also like a mirror for everybody, right? So this is a small flowchart. We have the Shastra Pramana in the form of Vedam, right? And we have Nishta towards the Shastra. We have Nishta towards the Sampradaya. By Nishta, I mean commitment with devotion, right? And that leads us to perform the karma that we ought to do. Nitya Naimittika karma, right? Even if we have Kamya karma or karma to fulfill some desires that we may have, whatever is sanctioned by the Sampradaya, we try to follow that. That is the Kamya karma aspect. But karma, only to the extent you can do, you can do. We can never say I have done the karma perfectly, but you can at least try. But what we have to do is we have to add bhakti to it. By adding bhakti to it, karma becomes karma yoga. This karma yoga, which is done with Eashwar Arpana Buddhi and Eashwara Prasada Buddhi over a period of time, even karma itself becomes like upasana. Besides that, you may have your own upasana like namasparana, japa, dhyana and everything. All of this culminates in chitta shuddhi. Chitta shuddhi basically means your mind is no longer cluttered by anxieties of the future or the burden of the past. Your ability to stay in the present moment is strengthened by your devotion to Ishvara and by your perfect fulfillment of whatever karma you can do to the extent you can do. That's the thing. So this chitta shuddhi culminates in Atma Jnana and Mukti. So if I go one step further, Brahma Vidya Shravanam, for anybody who has Nishtha to Vaidika Sampradaya, inspires that person to transfer their karma into Karma Yoga. And when Sattva Guna becomes predominant, that paves way to Brahma Jignasa. Atato Brahma Jignasa. That is Brahma Sutra's first sutra. Atato Brahma Jignasa. Therefore, start the commencement of Brahma Jignasa. What does therefore mean? Therefore basically means you have had at Chitta Shuddhi through Viveka Vairagya Adi Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampatti. By doing the sadhana that has been prescribed in your respective sampradaya, you get Chitta Shuddhi, which paves way to Brahma Jignasa. That again leads you to go to a sampradaya, a guru, an acharya, and you do Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam. That leads you to Shraddha, like I told you, Satsanga or Shravana leads Shraddha, and Shraddha culminates in Jnana, Shraddhavan Labate Jnana. Generally, if you see in this whole journey, bhakti is one common element that is there right throughout. Right throughout. So you start. So a person can be a karma brashta or dharma brashta like Duryodhana, or he can be a karmata. He can be adhering to karma sincerely like Yudhishthira, or he can receive the teaching from a guru like Krishna and attempt to be a karma yogi like Arjuna, or you can be like somebody like Shuka, who is Bhagavan Vyasa's son, Shuka Brahmam, who is like a Mahajnani or a Parabhakti Sampannaha. Right? So you can see, but what is common, even in Duryodhana, there is some level of bhakti, either to God or to his own selfish desires. Right? Difference between bhakti and asakti is asakti is attachment. Asakti towards nitya vastu is bhakti. Bhakti towards anitya vastu is asakti. I'm just playing with words here, but the idea is to get the message, right? Yeah.
Right. One quick thing, Eashwarji, the slide that you showed before, is this a part of Veda? Vyasa Mahabharata, or is it part of some other?
So it is part of our sampradaya actually.
Okay.
And of sampradaya is completely. Imagine sampradaya is like an orchard of mango orchard. And if you ask me in which soil is this mango orchard grown, you will say it is grown in the soil of the Vaidika sampradaya.
Okay.
So in the soil which has been enriched by Vedas, several Mahatmas have come, and they are basically lifting us up, so to speak, right? So that's the bhava. Yeah. So now we will go into a few stories. Shruti ji, is it okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's start.
So one of the first things about Mahabharata, and again, I will again recommend highly Hindu University of America to go and take courses with Dr. Vishwa Adluri on Mahabharata, because it's a very, very tangible experience for us to dive into the. So one of the first things that stares at you when you go to Adi Parva or even Mahabharata in general is there is a Deva Rahasya, a divine secret. It is called Bharavatarana. So the idea is in Treta Yuga was a glorious period, like Sri Ramachandra's period, right? So by the time in Deva Ashura battles, Asuras have been vanquished. And even people are all by and large happy, doing all the karmas properly and everything. Then the Asuras said, how can I work around this golden age, Amrit Kal, right? How can I work around this? I have to somehow like defeat this purpose or defeat the Devas. So they started being born among humans. Okay, that's what Mahabharata says. Ashura, Jagigire Kshetre Rajyam, Manuja Pungava. They were born among men. Okay, and they were not among Kshatriyas itself, they were born. Then slowly Adharma starts spreading. Okay, then you may be wondering that if Treta Yuga is so good, then why did bad things happen to it in the form of Dwapara Yuga? Because when people do good deeds, you only expect good outcomes, right? But the point is, that's how life works, is that we think we have done some good deeds to the extent we are aware of. But there's, but like we say, like how much our cache memory in laptop may be very clean, but our cloud memory may be very bad actually. So our Sanchita Karma, which is accumulation of all our past lives, which is beyond our scrutability, right? There, some karma phala was waiting to come. That is, took the form of all these Asuras who have been born among humans. So then the Adharma quotient is beginning to rise in earth, and Prithvi Mata goes to Bhagavan Sri Hari. And they say, please, Swami, you have to help. Then by Parameshwara Agnya, by Hari Agnya, Bhagavan Hari himself and the Devatas, they are all deciding to be born among the earthly folks so that they can counter the adharmic forces. Okay, so this secret is called secret because, see, in our life, our ability to understand our own life is limited. But sometimes certain things happen that stun us at individual level, family level, group level, society level, country level, even world level. We wonder, why did this happen? Like, for example, our civilization. What happened to our civilization? How we were conquered? How did these people come? What did happen? We don't know. There is some divine thing at play. At mundane level, there is only limited answers. Mundane level, all we can do is we should do what needs to be done with Eashwar Arpana Buddhi, Eashwar Prasada Buddhi. But our extent of knowing why things happen, that's very hard for us to know, right? So similarly in Mahabharata, all the characters are playing their role to the extent that they can play their role. They are all thinking that they are controlling the events. They understand the cause and effect. Like Duryodhana thinks he knows what he is doing. Yudhishthira thinks he knows what he is doing. But what they don't realize is at some higher cosmic level, they've all been born so that others who are adharmic in the society, like all the adharmic people flock together, all the dharmic people flock together, and all of this should eventually culminate in the burden being reduced. Bhara Avataranam. Bhara means burden. Avataranam is reduction of burden. So this is the larger game that is being happening as Bhagavan Parameshwara is doing this game as Karma Phala Dhaata. But this is not known to every character. Very few people know of this secret. Like Devas, of course, know it. Some Rishis know it. Bhishma knows it. That is part of the reason why he kept quiet in that Guru Raja Sabha when the unimaginable horror unfolded before him. I'm saying certain things, it's very hard for us to know why. This is one of those reasons. Bhara Avataranam. It is happening. Okay. And you can see Swami himself is revealing Shanti Parva. Bhara Avatarana Artham. He Pravistau Manushim Tanu. I will take Manushi Tanu. I will take the Tanu of a Manishaha and I will come forth for the purpose of Bharavatarana. Okay, that's the idea that is there. So, another thing I want to mention here is that when we look at the story operates at three levels. The Adi Bhautika level, which is the mundane level in which we all exist, right? Then there is the Adi Devika level, which very few people who are illumined can have some access. They will know what are the Devata Sankalpams, what are they trying to do, how is Lord Shiva trying to move the coin, all these things. Then there is Adhyatmika level or a deeply spiritual level in which a person seeks moksha. So the story has all these three layers. In general, this is not just for Mahabharata, but any like Valmiki Ramayana or any of the Puranas, you will feel the same thing. Okay. But by and large, you should understand that all of these things are happening because it is a Hari Hara Leela. So it is God who is moving everything. Eashwara. It's Eashwara Sankalpam. That's a very, very key thing to keep in mind. Now we'll talk about origin of Pandavas. See, what do we know? They are born to Kunti Devi, right? And Madri Devi. But the fact that this whole story is set in motion by Parameshwara. And one of the representatives of Parameshwara in the Adi Bhautika level is somebody like Durvasa, Parashurama, Narada, Vyasa. They all come and execute what Lord Shiva wants. And Durvasa is an Amsha of Lord Shiva. This has been revealed in Anushasanika Parva. I have given you one pramana here. It is also revealed in Adi Parva. In Kandava Dahana Upa Parva, there's a Shvetaki Upakyana. The Shvetaki Upakyana, Bhagavan Rudra is saying, Durvasa is my Amsha.
Okay.
He's saying that. Okay. So, and this table I put here because Sri Parameshwara's presence in Mahabharata or Sri Devendra's presence in Mahabharata or Sri Hari's presence in Mahabharata can be seen in the three planes. Adi Bhautika, earthly, Adi Devika, the mystical, Adi Atmika, the deeply spiritual plane. So Parameshwara comes only once in Adi Bhautika plane. That's the thing you were talking about, Shrutiji, is that we see Krishna so often. We see Lord Shiva only once. That is when in the Vanaparva section and Arjuna goes to get the Pashpatastra, right? Otherwise, he comes through Durvasa, Parashurama, Narada, Vyasa. They are his means of coming into the story.
Okay.
At the divine level, he appears as Eashwara, Mahadeva, Ishana. He comes many times with Devi Mata, Uma, right? At the Adhyatmika level, the Stuti basically reveals that he is Atma, is Brahma, is Shuddha Chaitanya Vastu. Same thing, Indra. Indra Tattva is also a big Rahasya in Vedas and also in Mahabharata. Okay. So at one level, Adi Bhautika level, he appears to Arjuna, right? He appears to Pandu, he appears to Kunti, right? Then at one level further, even to Karna for that matter, right? Indra appears to Karna. Then Adi Devika level, he is the Devendra, right? He is the Adipati of all the Devas. Then in the Adhyatmika level, Indra should be understood as the Jivatma. This is another Sukshma Artham, but I will not go into this because it's a topic unto itself.
Actually, in Veda, when you say about Indra, it is as good as Paramatma, right?
Yes.
Because if you look in Sri Rudram Chamakam, I like
Agnishtha
that,
Mahindra
but
Sthan.
that of, yes,
Agnishtha
Indra.
Mahindra Sthan.
So,
I
but when we talk about the Puranas, that Indra is basically not the same Indra.
Yeah, he is not, the way I would say that Maheshji is, he is not the Indra of the Adhyatmika level.
Adhyatmika
He
level.
is the Indra of the Adi Devika level.
Adi Devika level.
So one
Yeah.
question I had about Indra is it like Maheshji said right now, it feels like he's usually shown in Puranas like very insecure god. He's afraid of losing everything and things like that. So in Mahabharata, how is he portrayed? Is he portrayed as someone who is insecure or more like at adhyatmic level that he's
See, he had to go to Karna, right, to get his kavach and kundal, right? There is the story goes very far, Narayana, and then they were like, so it can go very far. So Karna is connected to that Nara Narayana, okay? So he is very, I mean, he fought with Lord Krishna also, right? Like said, Govardhana Puja, we do it, right? So
Yes.
Yeah, correct. So you see it at all levels, Shrutiji. Like we are going to say one particular story very shortly now on the Pancha Indra Upakyana. I will tell you that.
Okay.
But it is also true that there are some wonderful stories in Mahabharata where there's a Yavakrida story where Indra is like a teacher in the story. So there are also instances where he's portrayed in very levels, but it is correct actually. Like Maheshji says, like Agnischa Mahindrascha me Somascha Mahindrascha. So the idea is that in Brihadaranyaka Shruti, also in Aitreya Upanishad, there are mantras which actually reveal that Paramatma, when he entered through the heart and as he's appearing as the Jiva, the Paramatma himself is appearing as the Jiva, out of respect for this Paramatma who has appeared here, right? We didn't want to take him by his name. His name is Inda, but since he didn't want to take some Mahapurusha's name, you don't want to take it just like that. So we change the name ever so slightly to Indra. So in other words, Indra is Rudra. In the sense, Rudra is Shiva as Paramatma. Indra is the same Shiva or Rudra when viewed as Jivatma.
Okay.
So that is the idea. But you are right. But at Adi Devika and Adi Bhautika level, the Pauranikas like Bhagavan Vyasa has told stories where one particular divine being who's called Indra has had some problems under some circumstances. But the story is not to berate Devendra. It's only to show a mirror to us. So that we see the reflection on the mirror and try to see when we see something wrong with the mirror, you don't change the mirror, you change yourself, right?
Right.
So that is the idea of these stories by and large. Right?
And to me is like the Adhidevika Indraji is like he may be something like a position, Devendra. May not be the same Indra. Indra is like
Right.
Paramatma as far as Veda
Yes,
is concerned.
yes, yes.
But
I'm
when
going to
we
say
talk
that.
about Purana level, like Veda cannot be understood by everyone, right? We are still half a chromosome away from chimpanzee. Let me be very frank with you. And to go to that level, we need to do a lot of like meditation and all those things. So one way our Puranas tell us how to be like how the king should behave and those. So they are trying to give an example of Devendra, but that's my take. It can be Adi Devika level or Adi Bhautika level. He looks more like at that level.
Correct.
Okay.
So I will, when I go to Panchendra Upakhana, you will actually
Yeah.
find that there are several Indras being mentioned and all that. I will mention that. And of course, Sri Hari's presence, we know that at Adi Bhautika level is as Sri Krishna. At Adi Devika level is the Naranarayana Rishi, who have come as Krishna and Arjuna, who come time to time again and again. And again, at the highest level, it is same as Lord Shiva, who is the Atma, is the Brahma. Right? That is how Mahabharata portrays them consistently. Right? Okay. So now, continuing further on the origin of Pandavas, Bhagavan Durvasa gives a boon to Kunti Devi, knowing fully well that in future she is going to have a problem in conceiving a child because of a particular problem, right? So what he does is he gives a mantra and he says that whichever yam yam devatam devam tvam etena mantrena avishyasi, when you do mantra avahana of any soever, whatsoever devata, whomsoever you may want to build, tasya prasadena putrastava bhavishyati. Thereafter, immediately you will get their amsha in the form of your child within you will manifest. That's the thing. So Karna, Yudhishthira, Bhima, Arjuna, Nakula, Sahadeva, they're all born like that, right? Particularly if you look at the story of Arjuna's birth, there's a thrilling description that is there. First Pandu is thinking, how can I have a son who can conquer everybody? Then Karma, Manasa, Vacha, he does tapas to Indra. And then the Indra Shiva link is whatever we see in Upanishads and everywhere. That link you can see again and again come here also, in the way the conversation unfolds. Then Kunti Devi does a tapas again with the mantra received from Bhagavan Durvasa. And then Arjuna is born to her. Then Ashariri voice comes in the sky. A lot of remarkable predictions are made. One particular prediction I am putting here is that he will fight with Mahadeva. Eshe yuddhe Mahadevam Toshiyasti Shankaram Astram Bhashabadam Nama Tasmat Tushtat Avapsyati. By pleasing Shankara, by fighting with him, he will obtain the Pashupadastra from Mahadeva. So this is all predicted at the time of Arjuna. So Arjuna is remarkably great. That idea we should keep in mind. Our pop culture generally tries to put him on par with Karna. There is no match. I mean, they are not even on the same page. If you look at Mahabharata as is, right?
So Pashupatastra is something like in modern times, smaller version of hydrogen bomb, which can be targeted to specific people or the entire nation or the country. Whereas current bomb cannot target to specific country, it can specific place only, irrespective of who is living there. You cannot target to one person. Whereas Pashupatastra is very powerful.
Yes, correct. And that all those sections are very, very thrilling. Today we will not go into them, but that's a very, very thrilling section. Not only is obtaining it, he obtains it twice in Mahabharata, once in his Stula Sharira, once through his Sukshma Sharira, and also how he uses it against Nivata Kavachas. That's a thrilling battle. That's a very like a futuristic Star Wars type battle that is described in Mahabharata. So that's a beautiful episode. So now going further, the 5 Indras. So we told that story about the birth, right? Now we will go even further in time. So this is the Pancha Indra Upakhana. So what happens is suddenly the story goes somewhere else. This is told in a different context. I'm not mentioning the context in the interest of time. There's a yaga that happens in Naimisharanya. There Indra is attending the yaga. That time he hears a woman crying, and then the woman's tears flow through Bhagirathi, which is Ganga, and becomes golden lotus. He lifts this lotus and he looks at the woman and says, "Why are you crying?" And the woman says, "Come with me." They both go to Mount Kailasha. On top of Mount Kailasha, there's a youth and a yuvati. They are both sitting and playing a game of dice. See the motive there. So what this basically means is when Einstein famously said, right, God doesn't roll a dice, he said. but here we can see he's actually rolling a dice. The only difference is his rolling of dice is as karma phala dhaata. The outcome of the dice roll basically signifies that everybody reaps what they sow. Right? That is the idea. So game of dice is happening. Indra looks at the both of he for somehow in his ajnana that thinking I am the Indra, the lord of the gods, he doesn't recognize that the young youth and the yuvati, the yuva and the yuvati were sitting there are actually Parameshwara and Parvati Devi. He doesn't realize that. So he is trying to threaten them with his Vajrayuda. Then Parameshwara looks at him, does a humkaram, and then Indra becomes like a statue. Then in his heart, after some time, he realizes the mistake that he does. When he realizes the mistake, his body unfreezes. Then Parameshwara says, there's a punishment waiting for you. Okay. So when he says, what is the punishment? He says, go inside that cave. When he opens the cave, inside there are 4 other Indras who have also come here like him in the past. Then he repents, and then they say, Swami, whatever order you do, we'll do. Then Parameshwara says that you should be born in the earth, and that is how the 5 Pandavas are born. The idea is these 5 Indras are the 5 Pandavas. So one brief note to the readers is that the idea of Indra being arrogant and being punished and then being advised is a theme that you see in Kenopanishad also.
Okay.
So it's the Kenopanishad link that is there. So people can read Kenopanishad. There Indra is arrogant. That is why Brahman disappears, doesn't reveal itself. Then Uma Haimavati, which is Brahma Vidya Swarupini, Jaganmata, she comes and reveals the Brahma Vidya to Indra, and that is how Indra became the first among the Devatas. This is how the Kenopanishad story is. So that Bhavam you can see here also. Okay. Then the idea is there are 4 other Indras, and who are the 5 Indra names? Vishwabhuk, Bhutadaman, Shibi, Shanti, and Tejasvin. Tejasvin is basically Arjuna. So it's born as Arjuna.
So it almost seems that Indra seems like what Mahesh was saying. It's a title. It's not really, you couldn't probably identify it as one person. It's a title, and 5 different people are holding it. And then this is where this story is going. Okay.
Actually, there is a, if you look at Devi Bhagavatam, to kill one of the asuras, like, so goddess has to, she has to get the energy from the Indras, Vishnus, from all the multiverses, right? So they gave the energy, because that asura became so powerful. He was conquering multiverse to multiverse. So we have a concept of that. So there is not so many Indras are like that. And then we have each kalpa, we have like 4 yugas, right? So there is one story in Ramayana, like it was a lot for time to go like back to his own place, for Lord Rama, and Hanuman won't let him go. So he threw his ring in the crack and then told him, go and get it. So Hanumanji went down to Pataloka, Nagloka. He met Vasuki and said, I want the ring. Go and find it. It's there. Finally, he found out. But he found 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all look alike. So he asked to him, what is this? He says, so he explained, like, there is every kalpa, there is 4 yugas, and then it keeps on repeating. So Rama takes birth again and again and again and again and again and again.
Like parallel universes.
Yes. So, well, yeah. So it's the same thing of parallel universe. So you can find the whatever the ring you want for this universe you are, and you can find the ring from there.
Correct. So that idea is there very much, Maheshji. Like for example, Lalita Sahasranama in the Purva Pitika, when the Vashinyadi Vagdevatas are there and they all come in the sadhas, they say there are several crores of Vishnus and crores of Brahma, crores of Rudra are there. And in their presence, it is being said, So that idea that you are right. So coming to this story, Indra is a position, and either you can take them as one kalpa or one yuga or across universes, whichever way we can think of it. The idea is there were 5 Indras who were born as the 5 Pandavas because of Parameshwara's leela. That's the point from this presentation standpoint, that's the point I want to make. Is that he is the puppet master, as it were, right? And that woman who was crying, whose golden tears became golden lotus, she's an Amsa of Shakti. She's Śrī Swarupini, right? So she has been commanded to be born as Draupadi. So that is the idea that was given at that time. Similarly, origin of Draupadi is also like that. There's a story when this Sri Shakti, she is born as a Rishi Kanya, And in her heart, she's looking for 5 lakshanas because Purva Vasana, right? She remembers the 5 Indras. So the 5 lakshanas she has in the mind, and she wants a husband with 5 lakshanas. Then Parameshwara says, since you have asked for this in your heart for 5 times, and those 5 lakshanas, it's very hard to see it in one person. There will be 5 Indras will be born as your husband in your next life. So again he comes. So she does Shiva Upasana, who that Draupadi. So that idea also we see again. So Indra, Rudra are Samanvaya, right? Similarly, here this Draupadi and Shakti is also, there's a Samanvaya. That is why you see Draupadi is like a sister to Krishna because she is an Amsha of Narayani or through Shakti Amsham. So he's Hari, right? So he's a brother of, see, you can see all these themes are all falling in place, right? So that is one thing. And then the next question can come is, why should she be born only to Drupada? Why can't she be born to someone else? Right? Because nothing happens. Like I'm saying, it's not game of dice. It is not. It may seem like a game of dice to us, but for Swami, he knows what he is doing, right? So then we know the story of Drona and Drupada, which is very interesting because the entire Mahabharata war has been, their rivalry between Drona and Drupada is the catalyst for the war. And interestingly, Drona or Drupada, none of them belong to the Kuru family. They are outside the Kurus. But because of their rivalry, the whole Kuru family got destroyed, actually. I'm saying this is how God does his work, and it's very hard for us to fathom how this happens, right? So that is one important thing. And in Drona's life, we should understand that Parashurama is his guru. In Bhishma's life, Parashurama is his guru. In Karna's life, Parashurama is his guru. And who is Parashurama's guru? He's Parameshwara himself, actually. From the Puranas, I am taking the Pramana. So the idea is their gurus are also set by Parameshwara only. So that is one thing to keep in mind. Now we'll go to briefly Gandhari, Mata Gandhari and Duryodhana. Gandhari Devi herself was a great devotee of Parameshwara. And she had obtained the boon that she will have 100 children. And since the Kuru Vamsham was having this progeny problem, right, ever since Bhishma took that vow, things were never smooth for that the lineage, right? Bhagavan Vyasa has to intervene and so many things happened, right? Vichitravirya died, Chitrangada died, all these things happened. So they said, now Dhritarashtra is born, Dhritarashtra should have at least Santana Bhagyam. So then Bhishma said, since Gandhari has the Varam from Lord Shiva, so let us marry Gandhari to Dhritarashtra. So you see, Lord Shiva's Varam to Gandhari became the reason for Bhishma to choose Gandhari as the wife for Dhritarashtra, right? So we see this. Second thing is we'll study the prime antagonist in the entire...
At that point, Shakuni did not like it. And that was another reason for the whole tapestry.
Correct. So he came along as the other catalyst. Right, correct. So then Duryodhana, if you look at Duryodhana's origin, it's very, very interesting. So in Varam Parva, there is an interesting episode. I'm taking that episode as a pramana for Duryodhana's birth. So when in the Gosha Yatra Upaparva, do you remember in B.R. Chopra Mahabharata also they were showing this, or we must have read it in Mahabharata, is that the Kauravas go to the forest and camp in the forest very close to the Pandavas just to irritate them, just to spite them. But in the process, they misbehave with the Gandharvas, they get into a battle, they lose the battle, then Arjuna and Bhima come and rescue them. So after the rescue takes place, Duryodhana feels so insulted that he has been rescued by Arjuna and Bhima that he is saying that I'm going to fast myself to death. Then he is sitting there trying to fast to death. That time some Asuras come with their Ashura Maya. They take him to a different location. And in the different location, they are trying to convince Duryodhana to give up this will to kill himself. Right? By saying that in the days of the old, I'm saying here in English, right? Hey Rajan, we have obtained you by our Ashura tapas. We did tapas to Maheshwara. So your body, which is Vajradeham, has been created by the Anugraham of Maheshwara and Maheshwari herself. So even there, the Asuras are also Bhaktas of Lord Shiva. And Duryodhana is the poster boy for Asuras in the Bhuloka at that time. Just like Yudhishthira is the poster boy for the Devatas, right? Or Arjuna. Okay. So here also you see Lord Shiva connection coming into the picture. So Duryodhana has also been architected in such a way that he will become the catalyst for Bharavataranam to take place on Prithvi. Right? So again, so the idea is not just the heroes of the story, the so-called negative shade characters are also born because of Parameshwara Sankalpa.
Both sides are connected.
Correct.
I think in Ramayana also we see that pattern that Ram is also Shiva Bhakta and Ravan is also
Shiva
Bhakta.
Right.
So there is
the other thing I will say is that there Indra's son is Vali, Surya's son is Sugriva.
Correct.
There Swami took the side of Surya's son because he was in the side of Dharma.
Correct.
Here you come to Mahabharata, Indra's son is Arjuna,
Mhm.
and Surya's son is Karna.
Karna.
But Swami takes the side of Arjuna because he was following Dharma.
Correct.
So here it's almost like he's returned the favor, in the complimentary fashion.
Yeah.
Done.
In the comment section, there's also another question from K. Ram. He's asking, is there any Indra Rudra connection in Ramayana as well that we are aware of?
I am
So-
sure
So
there
Indra is the spiritual father of Vali
Mhm.
in Ramayana, if you take a look at it. And same way like Arjuna for Indra is spiritual father for Arjuna. So like in Mahabharata. So there is a connection. So yeah, and then Lord Rama. Uh, so here, this is interesting thing. In Mahabharata, the spiritual father, like the son, is Arjuna. He is the best friend of Krishna. Their spiritual father is Vali, whom Rama kills, like in Rama Avatara. And then Rama does worship Lord Shiva. So Lord Shiva's connection is everywhere, even in Ramayana, Mahabharata, everywhere. So yes, that is.
the one thing. I mean, it's a question that we can think through even further. Like for example, in the Ahalya episode, we see that he gets the curse of thousand eyes,
Mhm.
right? And we know in Sri Rudram, Sahasraksha is the nama used for even Rudra.
Right.
So you see, in name at least, we can see those epithets having a story behind those names, and those such stories appear both here and also there.
Also there.
So for K. Ramji's question, it's a good question, but it's a question that requires a sustained study, and then we can come up. So I will actually take an action for that because it's a good question. So thank you, Ramji. For Rama Kripa, right? We have a good question now, right? So we have done Gandhari. Now we'll go into Ashvattama, which is a very interesting character because he's son of Drona. Drona is a very Uttama Vyakti, right? And Ashvattama, Mahabharata reveals, is born as an Amsha of Lord Shiva. This has been mentioned many times in the Mahabharata. In Drona Parva, Bhagwan Vyasa reminds Ashvattama of this fact.
So one question here is, how come then Ashwattama is actually a negative character in Mahabharata, but he's still he's avatar of Shiv.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. First of all, one thing we have to understand is everybody is a child of Parameshwara only.
Correct.
Right? In that sense, everybody is an Amsha of Parameshwara, right? That in that there is no difference. Now, what we are saying exclusively when we talk about certain people like Ashwattama and all that is that they have been put there to do a certain karya, a deva karya samudbhava, right? That something is going to happen because of them. So that we have to keep in mind. Second thing is Ashwattama character itself is a very interesting character. His affection to his father is exceedingly high. And Drona, because he's a Rini of the Kuru Vamsha, he's fighting on the side of Adharma. So Ashwattama naturally is fighting with his father, right? So that he can fight against the Pandavas. Even though he also knows Pandavas are better people than Kauravas.
Mhm.
But also because of his friendship with Duryodhana, he has a certain level of partiality that he develops for Duryodhana over a period of time, which culminates in the very, very heinous crime that he does towards the end, right? When he killing the Panchala princess, then releasing their Brahmastra towards Uttara Garbham. All of these things Ashwattama does, which is very uncharacteristic because generally he's been a very positive character. Then over time he flips, right? And Shastram says he's even Amsha of Lord Shiva. So he's bored with that thing. It also reveals that Bhagavan Vyasa, you see the second paragraph, he says in that Tataiva Karmana Krishna Mahatapuso Maha. See, Jata Rudro Mahatmate, Amsham, your Amsham is of Rudra himself. Then it says, in your previous lives, you are a great Bhakta of Parameshwara. It even says that. Sa Bhavan Devavat Pragyo Nyatva Bhavamayam Jagat. Bhavamayam Jagat means Ashwattama in his previous lives he used to roam in this earth thinking everything is Lord Shiva, everything is Lord Shiva. He used to have that kind of a feeling, it seems. How can a person who has manifested that kind of a bhakti to Ishvara end up doing something completely
Opposite.
Going south, right? How does this happen? This itself is worth reflecting. We'll talk about it in the next slide. But again, Ashwattama, we can see, is a great instrument. In the end, when he does the killings of the Panchala princess, he is not able to approach their tent because Lord Shiva is protecting it. Then he prays to Lord Shiva. Then Lord Shiva says, time has come for the Panchala princess to be killed. and he gives permission to Ashvattama and even a Khadgam to say go and kill. I'm saying Lord Shiva has used Ashvattama wherever it was necessary. And yet this Ashvattama was punished by Sri Krishna.
Correct.
So he was roaming with that guilt and pain for a while. And with that tapas, with that yuga, with that thing that is over, now we celebrate Ashvattama as a Chiranjeevi, especially whenever Deepavali comes and we all apply the oil, we'll chant that mantra, right? Sapta Chiranjeevis. So we
Ashvattama
celebrate.
Balirvyaso Hanumana Vibhishana Krupa Parshuramachcha Saptaita Chirajivana.
Chiranjeevi.
It does seem, Eashwarji, that Ashwathama paid a very high price for all of his karma in Mahabharata. It seems like he has to be alive forever with that pain and guilt. Is how I heard.
Actually,
It
if
is
you
true,
go
but the way I
around
think the
on
tradition, that way I think the tradition looks at it is that period is over.
Okay.
So in our yuga now, he is only roaming as a bhakta of Lord Shiva.
Oh, okay.
That
So
is
he's
how I have understood it, but somebody can confirm it or otherwise. But
so actually, if you go to Narmada River,
Parikrama.
Parikrama, you will see Ashwatthama still alive. If you have a true heart, you will see, and people have seen it. So there are a bunch of YouTube videos if you find it, and bunch of people have narrated their experience, like they saw Ashwatthama there.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
well, now we'll do a brief reflection. So we talked about that flow, right? So we know somebody like Duryodhana is a karma dharma brashta.
Mhm.
But then Vedas don't abandon anybody. They give everybody a chance to evolve. And there are some people who take that chance seriously, like Yudhishthira, who stick to dharma to the extent they can. They do their best. But as we know, Shankara Bhagavatpada, Adi Shankaracharya, in Bhashyam, he actually says that it is very rare. I don't think there has been anybody since the beginning of creation who can put their hand on their chest and say that I have done the karma perfectly. He says, because it is that difficult. Because so many factors have to be anukulam to you all the time, which is just not possible actually, because of the kind of karma that we all do all the time. Right? So Yudhishthira also struggled. He suffered. He learned many lessons and all that. But interestingly, the Bhagavad Gita was not given to Yudhishthira. It was given to Arjuna. Why? Arjuna had another element which Yudhishthira did not manifest very well, which is his affection and attachment to Sri Krishna.
Narayana.
Naranarayana Bandham. See, when the Nara, which is Manava, when the Manava decides that what is my ashrayam, what is my upayogam, that clarity, if that comes. What is ashrayam? Ashrayam is that which you hold on to, without which you cannot survive. Right? That is your ashrayam. Right? Not just your alambanam, it contains you and it is a poshaka karanam. It also nourishes you. That is your ashrayam. What is upayogam? Things that you use. Your body you use. Your mind, your thought, your wealth, your education, your acquaintances, bank balance, everything we use. But if we start depending on them as if they protect us, we are fools actually.
And then Yudhishthira has never surrendered completely to
Correct.
Krishna, whereas Arjuna has completely surrendered to Krishna.
Correct.
If Yudhishthira would have surrendered to Krishna, then the whole Mahabharata wouldn't have happened. If you look at the there is one Uddhav Gita, he literally, there is one that is for another discussion.
In Jaimini Mahabharata, there is a story where Janamejaya asks Krishna, saying that, hey Swami, how come my great grandfather Yudhishthira, why didn't you come there? Why did you come only when my Draupadi Devi asked for help? Why didn't you come before? He never asked actually. He never asked. See, the thing with Arjuna and thing I'm saying is that Arjuna, in his heart of the heart, sees the Naranarayana Rishis have only come, right? So he knows that without Narayana, I am nothing. And Narayana also has immense love for Nara, right? So the idea is that Anubandham to Eashwara is the key difference between Yudhishthira and Arjuna. That is why in the second chapter, 7th verse, Sadimam Tvam Prapanna, I am surrendering to you, he says, right? That like Maheshji says, he surrenders. So Karma Yogi. Then there is the journey of the Jnani, like Shuka. But generally, if you see this trend or this continuum, one factor is that what kind of Shraddha do you have towards Ishvara or Brahma Vidya? So the Bhakti before Shraddha in Brahma Vidya versus the Bhakti after Shraddha in Brahma Vidya. This is something that we as Jignasus, we have to think about it. Because you see, in Bhagavad Gita, there's a shloka. Chaturvidam bhajante ma janaha sukirto arjunaha arti jignasu artarti cha jnani cha bharata rishabha. These are the 4 people. Who are the 4 people? Arti, artarti, jignasu, jnani. A person in trouble, person seeking something specific, person who's seeking to know me, and person who knows I am one with him, he is one with me. That is a jnani. But jnani is also referred to as a bhakta only by Sri Krishna. Why? Because if you look at that arrow on the top, Duryodhana also had love for Dushasana. Everybody is capable of having love. But the question is, what is the vessel in which you are pouring your love? Sometimes we pour our love in inverted vessels. Sometimes we pour it in vessel that is whole or vessel that is finite. But Eashwara is a vessel which is pure, infinite, expansive. How much ever you pour, it is still not full. Right? So we should know how to direct our energy of love, right? Where we put it. That priority has, that is Ashraya Suddhi. Upayogam we should do. I'm not saying we will not give up our body. No. We do it. As Karma Yogis, we will try to do it. But if Jnana is the Lakshyam and Brahma Vidya is the means to that, then the Shraddha Avirbhavam will come actually with Brahma Vidya. This Shraddha was completely lacking. It's Shastra, if you have to ask, why did Ashvattama do this? Or why did Yudhishthira not go there? Means the answer can only be this Brahma Vidya Shraddha. Because Shastra Pramanam is there, Shraddhavan Labade Jnanam. If the Jnanam is there, then those misdeeds wouldn't have happened in the first place. They happened because of Ajnana. Ajnana is there means no Nayana, which means no Shraddha. So where does Shraddha come from? From Katha Sravanam or Vedanta Sravanam that comes through Brahma Vidya. See, I'm just trying to tie this all back to that mirror which I showed earlier. I said Vedanta Sravanam, Katha Sravanam, Shraddha, Jnanam. Right? So that is the trend. So Mahabharata gives us the opportunity. See, we can sit here and pontificate on whether Yudhishthira is correct or Bhishma did correct. But that is not the purpose of our life. Our purpose of our life is to escape our suffering here and now. Right? So from that standpoint, you see, there is one current of bhakti that is running. But when the bhakti flows through this, between the mountains of Brahma Vidya, as it were, it emerges on the other side as jnana. Right? That is the beauty we should think. So again, therefore, the key is to develop Shraddha in Brahma Vidya by Eashwara Anugraha. Right? And there is no better way of doing it than through Katha Sravana. So that is where Itihasa comes. Yeah, my father has put a message actually. He's in the idol of Ashvattama is seen along with Veda Vyasa in Padmanabha Swami temple in Trivandrum. Correct. So now at a very, very high level, this is a very, very, and I'm trying to summarize and conclude now, is that there are several mentions, several thousands of shlokas in Adi Parva, Drona Parva, Shanti Parva, Anuशाsanika Parva, especially in those. Origin stories, we saw about it today. Right? There's Arjuna, Lord Shiva, Pashupata story, we all know. Then in the Sukshma Sharira, Arjuna and Krishna visit Kailasha and obtain that. This is before the Jayadratha Vada. This happens. Then Naranarayana Bhakti to Parameshwara, several stories, hundreds of shlokas are there. Then Vyasa says that everything that is happening in Mahabharata is Lord Shiva is doing his work. This is an open admission. If Bhagavan Vyasa himself is saying that, then we all have to accept it, right? So it is there. And there are several aspects, small things like how did fever come? How did sword come? How did this come? That small artifacts and articles also have come through because of Parameshwara. So there are stories for each one of those also. They are very interesting stories. Then Sri Krishna himself is telling several Shiva Purana stories which are there in Mahabharata, which is wonderful. Then the Shiva Sahasranama story where Sri Krishna meets Upamanyu, wonderful story. Then Shatarudriyam is basically Sri Rudram, is a Vaidika mantra. See, people who do Veda Mantra Adhyanam have the right to chant, recite, and receive it. Not everybody has earned the prerequisites to receive that mantra. So that doesn't mean that the benefit of the mantra should not come to them. Benefit of the mantra should come to everybody. Whether or not the ability to chant it or understand it or internalize it is accessible to everybody. Bhagavan Vyasa, out of his infinite karunyam, has reproduced the Sri Rudram with a different format or type or namas, but with similar meters. So Chandas power is there. So that Shatarudriyam comes in Mahabharata, which is very, very special, which can be like listened by everyone or can be learned by everyone. The other thing is Sri Krishna himself says that every day in the morning I chant Shatarudriyam. He says that. So that's again a very, very inspiring thing for all the Shiva Bhaktas, right? Correct. So these are the tabular formulas. I'm just showing which parva, which chapter. We don't need to look at it, just an eye chart. Like I'm showing the different tables, different observations. So clearly you can imagine that one can write a very large book with all this content actually. Like there is so much stuff there, right?
Mhm.
So again, to conclude, if somebody wants to go deeper on this, on studies and reflection, I will recommend Hindu University of America. They have a very, very comprehensive 4-semester course on Mahabharata, which is taught by a world-renowned scholar and a lover of our Itihasa,
Mhm.
Sri Dr. Adluriji. Vishwa Adluri is his full name. So Vishwaji is teaching that in Mahabharata, and it makes it not only fun, insightful, but you can connect with it. It's very wonderfully done. Okay. And this course offers a complete overview, and we have great opportunity to harmonize this with other texts in our tradition also.
Mhm.
Okay. And I have shown pictures of some of the books that people can get. A translation by M. N. Dutt on the top, which is has Samskrita slokas and English translation. Then prose only style English translation, which is Kisari Mohan Ganguly.
Mhm.
And then Gita Press has also published the entire Mahabharata. Right, it is all there. So I will really recommend all this.
Yeah. There is a viewer, Vidishri, she's saying, I didn't know so much of that's happening in Mahabharata is all Mahadev's leela. I think because of your insights today, Ishwarji, it became more clear that how there are both sides that are worshipping Shiva and Shiva leela that is coming in picture for Mahabharata. But like her, even I, like I said, I was always thinking that Vishnu is in forefront of the story. It does seem like in the background there is a lot of Shiva leela.
Like at Adi Devika level, it is all Lord Shiva moving the coins, right? At Adi Bhautika level, he rarely makes an appearance. That is why it is behind the screens
Correct.
effort, right? Little bit.
In at Adhyatmika level, I saw one of the dialogues somewhere. I think I showed you also. I cannot show it here because otherwise I will get a
Yeah, yeah,
copyright strike.
yeah.
So, uh, so Banasura asked to Lord Shiva, right? Like about helping him. So Lord Shiva tried to convince Banasur, "Okay, you don't want to really fight." Say why? It's because he's Krishna, but you are Shiva. He said, yeah, but I can't, because see, the, nobody on the earth is as powerful as Krishna. Maybe that person can have 1,000 hands, and each hand will have power like power of 1,000 elephants. Still, without Krishna's wish, nobody can stand
Correct.
with or against him without his wish.
Correct.
And then he asks, "But you are Parameshwara." He said, "But the I can tell you because I know Krishna very well. Because there is no difference between Krishna and me. I am the same."
Yeah.
Correct. That same Baba is seen in Anushasanika Parva also. Like
Mm.
Shri Parameshwara himself says that when Krishna does the tapas in Badrikashrama to Parameshwara to obtain a santana, that time Sa Uma Swami comes with Amavaru, with Devi Ma. And that time you actually see that Parameshwara himself says that, "Oh Krishna, you are non-different than me."
Yeah.
Kada. So he says that very, very explicitly. So that's a very, very poignant moment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to tell the viewers at this point that if you have any questions, please post it in the comment section. We'll take everyone's question before we end today's session. And to continue, Ishwarji, there's an interesting question again from the chat. It says, "Is it that war is inevitable? Even God cannot stop the war? Is that human emotion is much stronger than the Almighty, or is it that it is a process?"
I can say you in one word, because हम इंसान है ना, हर चीज में अपनी टांग लगाते हैं, फिर बाद में हम भगवान पे छोड़ देते हैं. That's all I can say right now.
Yeah. No, my view is that this question presupposes that there is almost like there are two attempts and which are running against each other. Like there is something that God is trying to do and something that man is trying to do, right? See, that again presupposes that human will is independent of God's will, right? That question has that assumption here, right? One thing we have to understand is within the extent to which we operate, that is where Swadharma, Dharma, all these things come. So, by our understanding of Vedas empowers us to act in a certain way that is good for everybody. So, all of life can be divided into two parts: Pravritti Dharma, Nivritti Dharma. Again, Mahabharata teaches us this. Pravritti Dharma, the goal is to attain Abhyudaya. Abhyudaya basically means holistic well being. In all aspects of life, you want to be completely good, spiritual, secular, whatever you may call it, right? Nivritti Marga is culminating in Nishreyasa or Moksha, which is cessation from suffering in all aspects. To attain Abhyudaya Nisreyasa, which are to be very good in Pravritti and Nivritti Dharma, Vedas give us the means or the map to unfolding it. But when we move away from Dharma, certain untoward events happen, and that karma phalam that we have to experience, right? So whatever you see sometimes at macro level, at economy level, at war level, World War I, World War II and all, some collective karma is what we are all reaping.
Correct.
Okay. But it means we are reaping means that war, however avoidable it could have been otherwise,
And Lord
actually is
Krishna tried.
the way for us to experience our karma and move past it. Right.
And Lord Krishna tried it, right? He went to the, and actually there is a very great book written by a great Hindi poet called Sri Ramdhari Singh Dinkar. The book name is Rashmi Rathi, is very nice. So when he went to the to ask for like at least 5 villages, so he says no. So then Krishna and then he tried to capture Krishna. Then he says, the Krishna says, याचना नहीं अब रण होगा, जीवन जय या की मरण होगा, फण शेष नाग का डोलेगा, विकराल काल मुंह खोलेगा, दुर्योधन रण ऐसा होगा, फिर कभी नहीं जैसा होगा, भाई भाई पर टूटेंगे, विष बाण बुंद से छूटेंगे, आखिर तू भूषाई होगा, हिंसा का परदाई होगा. That is great lines written by Kavi Sri Ramdhari Singh Dinkar. So Lord Krishna did try it, but we try to intervene everything, like we use our buddhi also. We are not becoming like Arjuna, like, Sarva Dharma Parityaja, like Lord Krishna says to Arjuna, and then say, yes, I am in your Sharana.
Correct.
So we never go to his Sharana. Even when we try to go his Sharana, we try to use our brain. No, I should do this. What we try to use plan B. What if this doesn't happen,
Yeah.
Correct. So
Another interesting comment, Eashwarji, if you want to explain that.
Yeah, correct. So yeah, definitely, right? We know Rameshwara, right? The Nama Vya Ramasya Eashwara Sa Rameshwara, Rama Eashwara Asya Sa Rameshwara. So what is the meaning of Rameshwara? It is being asked to Sri Rama by Swami Hanuman. Then Bhagavan Ram says that he who is worshipped by Rama is Rameshwara. Then when the Devatas ask Bhagavan Shiva, what is the meaning of Rameshwara? Bhagavan Shiva says, he who accepts Rama as Eashwara is Rameshwara. Which means my name is Rameshwara is because I accept Rama as Eashwara. So that Paraspara Bhakti, we see it all the time in our Sampradaya. But again, the important thing here is, we can say Ashvattama also had Bhakti. We can say even Duryodhana had Bhakti, we can say. But the important thing is the adherence to Brahma Vidya is what centers us. Otherwise, we have this body-centered thinking as opposed to a spiritual-centered thinking, right? The spiritual center, how can we know with our own intellect? It is not possible. We have to take the pramana of Upanishad or Brahma Vidya or Bhagavad Gita. There is no other way. This Bhagavan Vyasa knew very, very well, right? So that is the important thing. If you see in the 12th Parva, you see Shuka attaining moksha in the Shanti Parva. In the 13th Parva, Anushasanika Parva, you get Vishnu Sahasranama and Shiva Sahasranama. So what is the idea? In the heart, in the bed of arrows, the conversations are centered around various aspects. But what is the peak teaching of Bhishma in those sections? Is what is the means for realizing God. One is Jnana through Tattva Vichara. Second is Sadhana through Nama Japa. These two things, at least if we can remember from today's conversations, then we have done well, actually, right? So should I conclude, or is there any other questions, Shruti ji?
Actually, I want to say one more thing to add to that. Whenever we do any puja, so there is one sankalpa. I mean, we have to do snana. So one of the snana, they say, like whatever papas we have done, like we are doing that prayasthita. So in one of that it says Hari Haryo Bedam Nasti. Whatever if I have done papa by have differentiating Hari and Hara. So for that I am doing this repentance.
Right. Yeah, excellent point, Mahesh. There's one question from, again, the chat. It says, is it safe to assume Arjun attained moksha having received the jnana in Kurukshetra? Are there references to him and other Pandavas going through Jiva Ishvara Aikyam? This is being asked by K. Ram.
So the fundamental means of attaining that aikyam, because I'm assuming that K. Ramji is presupposing an Advaitic implication here, is that Brahma Jiva aikyam is not an event in time.
Okay.
It is the recognition of the oneness here and now. That is, so jnana is the means, jnana deva kaivalyam. Okay. So when Bhagavan gives him the teaching, right, he gives him the holistic teaching. He first starts with Atma Vidya only. Before giving Karma Yoga, you see, first few slokas are Atma Vidya, right? In Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, till between from verse 11 to verse 29 is all Atma Vidya. Then from verse 39 onwards till verse 53, it's all Karma Yoga. That's when you get the Karmanyevadikaraste sloka. There, Shankaracharya gives the Bhashyam on that. He says, Karmanyevadikaraste natu jnanena. He says, because Arjuna has the adhikaritvam to listen to Brahma Vidya to become a karma yogi, and he has to practice karma yoga for some more time in his life to develop the chitta shuddhi with which he can attain Atmajnana, which we talked about in the flowchart. To answer K. Ramji's question, in, I would say, Mahabharata, there is no mention of that Arjuna attained jnana. But we should also not forget that Arjuna is actually Rishi Nara. Nara Narayana have been coming Janma after Janma. Arjuna is a special embodiment of Nara who is playing a role. Okay. But I will refer K. Ramji to go to Bhagavata, where there's a very interesting section when Arjuna comes back from Dwaraka after Krishna's death. After Sri Krishna leaves the body and goes to Vaikuntha, Arjuna comes back with great grief. He breaks this news to Yudhishthira. Then Yudhishthira starts crying. Everybody is crying. There's a very beautiful shloka. That shloka says, that divine teaching, which he had heard like more than 40 years back, right? Because 36 years have passed since the Yuddha, that time. That sprung forth from his heart like a water from a well. Then immediately his mind became completely calm. Which means it took time for that jnana to ripen in Arjuna. And he spoke with such a command and clarity that everybody followed him just like gopis were following Krishna. The idea is Arjuna, who was Arjuna till that time, has now become that Nara, that ancient Rishi, who is Abeda from Narayana. So in Bhagavata, we find the culmination of Arjuna's character from a jnana standpoint. Okay, that is all we should remember.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, I think I don't see any more questions. Certainly, we'll be posting all of this recording on YouTube. If you have questions, please follow up on it. If you think or remember something after the session has ended, we'd love to answer you on YouTube. So please ask questions. And Eashwarji, I'll let you take the lead from here.
Okay. Om Eashwaro Guru Atmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyoma Vatyapta Dehaya Sri Dakshina Murtaye Namaha Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Ajnanantar Gahanapatitan Atma Vidyopadeshait Ratum Lokan Bhavadavashikat Apapapachamanan Mukta Maunam Vatavitapinor Mulato Nishpatanti Shambhor Murti Charati Bhuvane Shankaracharya Rupa Om Vyasaya Vishnu Rupaya Vyasa Rupaya Namo Vai Brahma Nidaye Vashishtaya Namo Namaha Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanura Mardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagat Kurum Sarvam Shri Krishnarpanamastu Sarvam Shri Parameshwara Shibam Shubha.
And I would like to tell, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Please do comment, really, because your comments do help us to work more to bring this like sessions like this. So please do like and subscribe. Thank you.
Excellent. So I'll conclude by saying that next Saturday, same time, we'll be talking about Mahashivratri, which is coming up. So please join us for the next session as well. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.